Appreciate folks joining us today. We'll get started in just a minute. I just wanted to start though by mentioning for folks that may have not known it that one of our very frequent members and commenters on the calls that passed away last week, Glenn Barker. Glenn was here at Disney, and I barely knew him from work, but we got to know each other much better through these calls. And I was supposed to be getting together with Glenn as soon as I got back from my trip, because we've been talking for the last 2 years of getting him going on digitizing his family movies and stuff. So I talked to him right before, about 2 weeks ago, and we were going to have lunch this week. And then last Friday, he suddenly passed away at home. So Glenn was a great member of the little Saturday family and will be missed. And was quite a shock to, I guess, to his family and all of us at Disney and his fellow Imagineering alumni. So I just wanted to acknowledge Glenn. It's gonna be weird not to look up and see his face. He always used a background picture of him staring at the camera with the lake behind him. So I never knew if it was the live Glenn I was looking at or the recorded Glenn. And all of a sudden it would start talking. And sometimes he would be on, he'd have the picture up, we'd be talking, so you could see him, listen to him, but there would be no facial movement. It was always a little eerie.
Yeah. So, yeah, that always confused me too. I always thought he was looking at me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, he was a heck of a nice guy. He was an absolute whiz in the world of sound. And we were saying things like on we had just recently gone to Disneyland, went through Indiana Jones, and he would be the guy that would work on things like the sound of the poison darts shooting past you, but working out the mechanism so that when the wind went past you, the sound was tuned to the motion of the wind, so the sound sounded like it was going past you. You just didn't hear the dart come out here. You'd hear when it go past you as you felt the wind going across your face. And little nuances like that, I think, were things that really helped an awful lot. So we'll miss you, Glenn, when
you're here.
Just wanted to acknowledge that he's gone. We had previously lost a fellow named Derek G. Folks may remember Derek. He was big into dinosaurs, and anytime you could talk about a dinosaur, he could tell you, what the mistakes they made at the Ford Pavilion or whatever. And but Glenn hit a lot closer, having known him. So with that happy introduction, Joey's going to talk to us today about some things he's found in his never-ending pursuit of capturing all things of the 64-65 fair.
It's funny, Richard Herring just said that he has by his side a bolt cutter and another item to scale a fence with or something.
That's a crowbar. A crowbar.
You won't need them, Richard. I have many of them here, so unless you want to join me one day.
You're going to be our urban archaeologist.
Well, that's what I've been called, or or a trespasser. But I'm going to share the screen now, and then I hope I do this right. Let me share screen.
Should be down at the bottom, little green button.
Right. Well, this says share.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. And let me go to my hold on.
We're seeing your internet browser.
Okay. I'm trying to get the let's see. I've got a black screen blocking my my tabs. How do I get that?
Pull that out of the way.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I did it. And you should see that.
Yes, we do.
Okay. And now I think I should get it into full screen. Am I right? Or is everybody seeing it in full screen?
No. Yeah, down at the bottom on your screen, I think it's not visible on ours. You should see something to put it in full screen.
Let's see. Let me move this out of the way. Oh, slideshow maybe. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. We should have it now.
Yes, we
Good.
do.
Good.
Perfect,
Jump,
perfect.
jump in the fence with Joey,
Okay.
Diane, and Jess.
Oh, good. Oh, I see my friend Bob's here. Hey, Bob.
Hey.
And Beth. Hey, Beth. Okay, let's see. Let me move this back.
Left arrow.
Well, okay, hold on. Wait a minute. Okay, it's going crazy.
Hailstorm.
Wait a minute.
Who's that guy?
No, hold on. I'm trying to,
Why don't you go to exit full screen?
hold on. I don't see that.
It's right up there. Hit the escape key.
Escape key. Okay, hold on. I don't see that. I'm just trying to, hold on, I'm just trying to navigate these pictures. If I, see if I,
Yeah, the escape key's on your keyboard, top left.
oh, okay. Okay, I hit it, nothing's happening. Let me move. Oh, I wonder why I can only go in one direction.
Oh, no, but okay, right there where you are, you should be able to, do you see a box now up at the top, exit full screen?
No, I don't. It says stop sharing.
Says exit
Oh,
full
exit,
screen.
exit
There
full
it is.
screen. Okay, I
Yeah.
got it.
Okay,
Okay.
so now on your left-hand side, go up to your first picture. Right, click on that. And now slideshow.
Okay, slideshow, here we go. Okay,
There
let
you
me
go.
just move, let me just move, move these guys out of the way. Oh, I see Sandy's here too. Hey, Sandy. All right. I'm trying to find my navigate. Okay, well, I guess I'll navigate. Let's see if I can navigate. Okay. Hold on. No, it's not navigating.
Should you be able to use the right arrow or I think the space bar?
Okay.
There you go.
All righty. Let's see.
Column of Jerash.
Okay. Yep, we got it. So everybody's seeing that okay, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, welcome to another installment of It Came from the World's Fair. This is basically a discovery show. We went down to Flushing Meadows recently, and we went to areas that are less traveled, and in those areas, certain parts of Flushing Meadow are basically stuck in time. Nobody goes to those areas, and a lot of times you can find what we call legacies from both fairs, 39 and 64. So welcome to Jumping the Fence with Joey, Diane, and Jess. My girls aren't with me, but I'm here. So it started with this photo. And this is the aquacade being demolished over a period of months, actually. I think they finally got the whole area all sodded, and within about three months or so. I was there when the first truck pulled in. But what's strange about this photo is the hydrant that you see, or what we used to call Johnny pumps. My father would always call it a Johnny pump. And I love this photo because it had some aesthetic value, the water coming out of the hydrant. And for years and years and years, I wanted to find this view again. Now that the aquacade is no longer there, it's very hard to get the same view. The area is totally re-landscaped, basically. But it ended up that we did a search. And let's see. As you can see, I'm in the thick of it, in the middle of the Aquacade demolition with bricks falling all over me and dust all over me, God knows. But we found it. We found the same hydrant, and it's in the very same position as the original photo. And off to the left, that would have been the gigantic structure. And now it's dry, and there it is.
Cool.
Very, very same angle with the huge Aquacade structure gone, and nothing but a field now, and this horrible snack bar that we call the droid, because it looks like a droid out of Star Wars or something.
It's interesting, they never replaced the missing cap on it.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Someone called me. I'm not sure if it was on, I think it was on the website, on the fair site, and said that they have the cap to this hydrant and that we should reinstall the cap, and I should paint the hydrant, and they should call it the Joey pump. Yeah, I don't know so much about painting it. That would be something the Parks Department would do. But
What's the point of having a fire hydrant in an empty field? What purpose does it serve?
well, I think that was all post-fair. So whatever the case was, they needed it there. And this is what's left of the big slab of the Aquacade that led, the stairs that led to the building.
Yeah, if I just interrupt, or if it wasn't put in post-fair, it was there for the fair. And when
Yeah.
they tore out the fair, they didn't have the money to tear stuff out. So that's why you still have the same roads from the 39 fair, because they didn't have the money to tear them out, so they used them in 64. They were supposed to tear a bunch of them out and they didn't have the money, so they left them there again. So there's all sorts of weird things that are just there because they didn't have the money to take them back out.
Yeah,
well,
they
they
also
provide a landmark.
they also didn't have the money to take away the foundation of the Aquacade, which you'll see in a minute. That's my girl standing on the foundation, and the reason why there's lumps is because it was so huge that they just didn't cut the lumps out. They just kind of went right over them, and now kids kind of go up and down with their bikes on it. So I guess it's still serving a purpose.
Yeah, there's a number of those throughout the area where the monorail support pylons were. And
Yeah.
the ground sunk around them, but the pylons are so deep and put on top of pilings that they're still there.
Now, this is the snack bar that's not in the exact spot of the Aquacade. It's a little bit to the right. The Aquacade would have occupied the entire site, and they built this thing. And it's kind of a weird thing. I mean, it's good to get a nice cold drink from, but it's a little strange because they recreated the bas reliefs that were on the Aquacade itself. They're around the corner, and they put the wrong date on there. They put a 1963 World's Fair date, which is a little strange.
Every time I've gone there, it's been closed, so I guess I've been lucky. I haven't had bad food.
Yeah, it's open. It's open on really crowded days and really hot days. Well, that's it. Can a grown man fall in love with a fire hydrant? Well, yes, we did, and we did find it, and the mystery is solved. So my photograph means even more now. And there it is once again. So it'll be burned into your memory.
Is there anything on the hydrant that identifies it as being installed by the World's Fair?
No. It's just a regular city hydrant.
Right.
Now, when you're turning to go into the park, before you get onto the Long Island Expressway, And many of you have seen these before. This is all that remains of the original wooden barrier that separated the fairgrounds from what would later be College Point Boulevard. So a fair legacy that's been rotting there because there really no one walks there because it's in a very, very high trafficked area. So it's very hard to, go and get a picture, go touch it at all or get a picture of it. But I did this from the car.
That's why it's still lying there, huh? You didn't jump out.
Yeah, I didn't get a
back
chance
seat.
to take it. There are other sections of it too, but that's the one that's more visible when you make the turn. The Whispering Column of Jerash. That's just posing with it. We had heard, I had gotten a call that something had gone wrong there. That the column, it's a 2,000-year-old column that was taken out of the Roman province in Jerash, Jordan, and brought to the World's Fair and given as a gift by King Hussein to the World's Fair Corporation. Although, if you know the story about this, Robert Moses went to Jordan, and this is not the column that he wanted. The one that he wanted was even bigger than this, taller than this. And they gave him this one, which is a lot smaller. I think his was in like 8 pieces. This was in 6 pieces. And they never told him. So he just assumed that, I guess he got distracted with everything that a fair corporation president has to do. And this is the column that he got. Now, the sad thing is that it's damaged. And the story that we got, 2 different stories. One that in June, they had an enormous concert called the Governor's Ball at the park. And it lasted like way into the night. So the first story is that, vandals ended up destroying the top part of it. I'll show you another piece. There we go. Huge chunk came out. And the second story is that a volleyball team was using it as target practice. Now, I tend to not believe that story because in order to hit that thing, you really have to kind of be very close to it. And the volleyball teams, how do I put this? They don't really use that. They use it as a toilet. Okay, they don't use it to kick volleyballs at. And I doubt it would take out a huge chunk like this unless it was already compromised in some way. And as you can see, the bottom half of it is also chopped up, which wasn't chopped up before. So I'm really thinking that it was some drunk kids after the concert that did this.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it really is. And there were pieces lying everywhere. There's another section on the other side.
Won't take much more damage for it to fall over.
No.
No, and I've been saying for years that I really wanted the Queen's Museum to bring it indoors. I mean, I think that's the most logical thing that you can do with this, because it's not only, it's also disintegrating because of the weather.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing, you're looking at that shot of the top of it with the cracks. Water's going to get in there and it's going to freeze and it's going to expand and it's going to break more pieces of it off.
I mean, this is a huge, huge piece. And there is a piece, as you can see above it, there's another piece that's hanging down. So it wouldn't take much more for someone just to throw a rock at it and have another piece come down. Yeah, that's again around the other side. Now,
Joe,
yes.
are you in touch with Lynn Malojewski at the museum?
I know her. Yeah, no, I haven't been in touch with her.
Because she's apparently new and she seems to be interested. She's the Assistant Director of Archives and Collections. I was there last week,
Yeah,
so I
she's
took
on,
her card.
Yeah, she's on the fair site. And I don't know if she would have anything to say about it, although we were hoping that by the time we got there, that the column would have been taken indoors. But I don't think they're going to take it indoors at all. I think it's the way the city works and the way the park works right now. But there's always a chance we can mention it to her and see what she says.
Yeah, maybe she can just at least direct you to the person that might have a little.
Yeah.
say.
Yeah,
Okay,
because it's in real danger of further crumbling.
yeah, that's a shame.
I don't think it would fall over because if you know something about columns, they have there's a steel rod that goes all the way up the column to keep the sections on. So, and this is part of the steel. So this might have been, this might be a 2,000-year-old piece of steel, or it might, you have to remember, this thing was in Jordan for, for all those, years. So it might have been repaired. There's another view of it.
Excuse me 1 second, Joey. While Joey's talking, Don, you're usually pretty good at finding things on the internet. Could you see if you could find any information for Flushing Meadows, Corona Park, or a place that people might be able to write to a park administrator to try to convince them that letting this thing get damaged further is not going to be a very good image for the city of New York?
So Corona Park administration or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you can get like Sandy said, maybe get in touch with Lynn. I know she's doing a series of shows. She's doing those archive shows right now. So maybe
Was Dermatology City.
Great, thanks. So while he's searching, thanks, Joey.
Yeah.
Any trouble finding it?
I'm going through a bunch of different things here. Somebody said Dermatology City. What?
You think they can move it in one piece, or you got to dismantle it?
yeah, it would be possible. It's not a large column as far as the Roman columns go. So it would be possible to upend it, get a flatbed truck and take it to the Queen's Museum and just set it up. I mean, it's already damaged.
I think if you laid it inside, it's going to fall apart.
Yeah, and it gets damaged. The base is completely damaged from the soccer teams using it as a public toilet.
See what happens to that steel rod when it rusts, it expands. That thing will crumble the stonework around it. You see that on highway bridges all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this just shows you the different columns. This is in Jordan now, and this is the Colonnade that all the columns form a street. And it was a Roman street at one time, and that's where the column came from. And again, not the column that Moses wanted, but a very small column. So
That's a very dry area too.
yeah. So the Ventos got out, and we parked in a place that again we never saw before. We never explored before. The park was crowded, and this is directly under the Van Wyck. And from here, well, here, let me tell you what this is first. We went searching around, and we said, well, let's go find the Futurama wall, which we call the Legacy Wall. And this is the wall that still remains from the Futurama. It's still there. I think I have another picture of it here. There it is. Yeah, that's the wall during the fair. See if I can go backwards. No, I can't. Okay. And there's another picture of the wall from the fair. And of course, we can't go down to the roadway, obviously. Maybe back then you could, because there used to be people walking the median. But now you would take your life in your hands. And there's the wall today. So a World's Fair legacy just staring at you in the face that nobody really pays any attention to. And it's the retaining wall, you might say, the last remnant of the Futurama, right on the Grand Central. There it is. That's the shot we took.
What was that traffic lane there before the wall was built?
It was widened, actually.
That
Yeah,
explains the wall.
it's right up against it. During the fair, it was a little bit away from it. And Space Park. This is Space Park as we saw it in the 1980s, I believe. And yes, it looks like the crew of the Starship Enterprise is about to teleport right.
Your phone's dinging.
Yeah, but this is how everyone remembered Space Park, because it was left abandoned like this, and they shot a lot of movies there using the remnants of it, and I think it looks so much better. There's my dad, and that's one of his rare visits to Flushing Meadow. In my later years, he used to take me all the time, but that's him on his way back there and trying to catch up on all the places he used to let me run to. And Space Park was still abandoned. And that's what the area, the exact same area looks like today.
It's quite an improvement.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Was that work done recently?
They keep working on it. Yeah, it was done. I believe it was renovated in the 2000s. There was a sign up, and they took away a couple of the exhibits. And I'm not sure. Some of them are even some of them are replicas. And as you shall see, I think I have a picture here. Okay, well, that is. We're going a little backwards. These might be out of order. I'm not sure. That is the Florida site.
Yeah, if we could just stay on the Space Park, about 15 years ago, they got the money to take them apart. And
Yeah.
they were both real rockets there,
Oh,
and
what'd they say?
the real rockets had metal support rods because they didn't have
There
the.
wasn't anything to worry about unless you start hurting, itching too bad.
Yeah, we're
She
gonna have
didn't
to
cut
mute.
anything
I
off
think we're
yet?
gonna have to mute
Gonna have to mute
mute
somebody.
everybody.
But I go,
There.
There
So
we go.
the real rockets and what they would be supported in part by the fuel that was in, and it would keep the metal from buckling. So over time, they had when they were put in at the park, they had to put metal brackets in. So some of them were real rockets, and the thing that they found to their surprise was the Mercury capsule that was up on the top of one of the rockets turned out to be a real Mercury capsule. It had been used for what was called a beach launch. They took it down to Wallops Beach, Virginia, launched it down. They put it out there and they ignited the emergency escape rocket to see how far it would fly the thing off the top of the rocket. And then it's now inside the museum, and the one that's out in the park is now a replica up on top. So if you go in the museum, that's the earliest known Mercury capsule to still exist. So it was kind of neat. They had to take a bunch of the rockets back to like St. Louis, where they were originally built, and people restored them and brought them back. So they put effort into it.
Yeah, one of the photos that you'll see are the rocket boosters sitting abandoned. They took them all out and they put them on the Ford site. But let's see what we got. This is the Florida site, the east end of the Florida site, right off of Meadow Lake. Now you can't even get to Meadow Lake anymore because I used to be able to walk right up to the water's edge, but it's so overgrown now that it's almost impossible to get to. Well, it's impossible to even see the water. You can just see a little sliver of it. That's more of the Florida site. Now this is all closed off because they're working in there right now. But if you look closely, if you're able to get back in, well, that's the World's Fairest Group. standing on the Florida site. And it was one hell of a hot day that day, I can tell you. And this is the foundation that you can find on the Florida site. And if you look in other areas, you can see the round circle that the footprint of the building, if you follow it around, you could just trace the building itself. And those are pieces of the Florida Foundation.
So they could go all the way back to 39, since the Florida Pavilion for 64 was built on top of the 39 site.
Yeah. This is the underground home site. And that's what it looks like when we were there last Sunday. And very interesting because that's the World's Fairest Group standing on it when we were there last. I think one of our last visits. And really, anybody that's just passing by has no idea that the entire area was a completely different looking area. So we took some time out. It's not a Belgian waffle, though it looks like one, to get some ice cream and to check out the Unisphere and the Unisphere pool. And I must say, pieces of the Unisphere pool are crumbling as well. The perimeter, it's those damn skateboarders. They really like to use it as a site to play in. These are the all that remains of the opening of the 1968 opening, 67 opening of the zoo. And these were the original animals from the zoo. And my daughter as a baby crawled on them. There's another one. I don't know I guess that's supposed to be a whale.
Sort of looks like the USS Enterprise meets a
Yeah,
whale.
it does. It looks like, yeah, it does. It definitely does. And there's the turtle. And I'm so glad that they took care of these things because these could be easily, vandalized. And that's my daughter on top of the turtle when she was growing up. And one thing's for sure, there's so many trees now that have grown in the area that a lot of the views are the classic views that you used to have are just obscured. And then this one, this is where we park. So we're under the highway now looking for any kind of legacy under there. And we dedicate this picture to Dave Watts because, as you know, Dave Watts is a highway guy and he loves the New York City roads. And that's the same area when they were building it. This is the Ford site. And it's funny because it's the only area in the park that never gets overgrown because they use it as a parking lot, but it really kind of looks the same. It looks like it looks like the pavilion has just been demolished and they're waiting to resod the field or something, but it always looks this way. And you can't walk in it because there's a guard post there, and it's right across the road from the Hall of Science. And those are the rocket boosters at the Ford site when they were looking to do something with them. They were a little too big for me to cart away, but they were there for about a month or two, and we took lots of pictures.
Yeah, I think two of them at least are at the Museum of Aviation out on Long Island. I'm not sure where the others went.
Yeah, well, I'm glad
Are
someone took them. That's good to hear.
Are those Saturn V
Yeah.
nozzles? They look about the right size, yeah.
Yeah, they were. They had what they called the Saturn V boat tail, and it was basically a plywood structure with these underneath. And you could go underneath it, and there was a button to push a button, and it would light up the rockets like they were igniting. And then it was a big bass speaker that would give a roar. And I can remember going out there with my brother Jim, and I pushed the button. He thought the thing was really lighting up, so it was very, very effective.
In fact, I have a photo somewhere of the interior, the lighted interior, because they painted it red, and they lit it up from the inside, but I can't find that photo.
That Ford parking lot is so weird because you have the light structure, so it's just dirt and grass out there. But it always looks like a paved parking lot, but it's not paved.
Yeah, it's not paved, and you're right. It looks like a 1970s parking lot because of the lamps are still there. But like I said, I was never able to get in it in recent times because there's a guard post there. But here's a legacy that really shocked us because it just came out of nowhere. We were walking near the Florida site on the other side of the park, and my daughter said for me to look up. There's something on the lamppost that might be fair related. So we looked up, and the closer we got, we noticed that they were the I forgot the name of the lamps.
All light.
Yeah, they're the lamps that are used at the New York State Pavilion. And what we learned is that they were originally turned around. They seemed to be on a swivel, and they lit up the east end of the Florida Pavilion. So that's very interesting that they left them there. And I even got a closer picture. There we go. Oh, they're called Moldcast. Yeah, Moldcast lamps. And as you can see, they're intact. They're even more intact than the ones that we pulled off of the New York State Pavilion. But
So-
sadly, they're gone now.
Oh.
Aw,
Yeah,
So
someone took
asked
them.
Who wanted to do a GoFundMe to rent Joey a snorkel truck?
Yeah, but they're gone now. I would have liked that. Yeah.
How they
A
get up there to
cherry
take those
picker.
things? How they got up there to take him with the rusted out bolts? You couldn't even put a wrench on them.
Well, I'm sure the city took them. The city brought them down because that's pretty high, and it's right above the highway.
Wonder why they bothered.
So that they don't fall on somebody.
Yeah, definitely. This is a great photo. When we went to the 50th anniversary at the park, we met Ken Carpenter and his wife, and that's his wife. And we walked over. Ken wanted to see what was left of the bucket ride. I think it's called the bucket ride. It's that ride that took you up and down.
yeah, Skyway?
In a gondola. Yeah, it's kind of like a gondola. And that's in the lake amusement area. And that's the footprint of that ride.
Huh.
Yeah, that was the aerial tower ride. So
Yeah,
you
the
would
aerial
have a
tower. Yeah.
big bucket, and then it rotated at the top, and you get a view, and then it would lower you back down.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
And what's interesting is that it's gone now. It's been, the grass has grown over it, and you really have to go back to the same spot in order to find it. But
And the last time I was there, I was just gonna say you could find some concrete and a couple bolt stickings still up.
yeah, here's another section of it, which is very interesting because a lot like the Futurama, when you go inside the area, you don't realize that you're standing inside the interior of a building or a pavilion or or an event or an exhibit. These are very special to me. These were put there post-fair. And when I was a kid in school, they had us do like a race from these structures to the Unisphere and then back again. And they've been painted. They weren't originally painted like that. And they used to be in other sections of the park too. What's sad is that they're falling to pieces. So there's one that's on the ground. And, you know, a lot has to be said for the PostFair Park too, because for a very, very short period of time, you know, the trees weren't grown yet. And it really, really did look like the fair. All the eye lines were there. There weren't these horrible, you know, buildings that were built afterwards. So it really did kind of still look like fairgrounds.
So that's a post-fair post, right?
Yeah. And while waiting for a soda, it's always good to get a view of the Unisphere. Someone had this on the back of the truck, which was nice. And a little kid was drawing his own Unisphere, which I thought was very nice.
Came out kind of like the IBM egg.
So our New York State Pavilion, we were approaching it expecting to kind of, you know, get in there and, well, not get inside. We knew it's locked up, but, you know, seeing it the same way that we had seen it the last time. And you're in for a shock because when we looked inside, expecting to see this, we saw this.
Wow.
I mean, there's an entire tree growing in there now. Remember, we were expecting to see this, and we got this. So, and I'm sure once they clean it all up, they'll get in there and they'll rip all that stuff out. But it's doing a lot of damage to what's left of the map. There's another section. And it's really like Poison Ivy City in there. So, you know, there's no way we could have, even if we were allowed in, we probably wouldn't have gone in there to explore. And we were there just 3 years ago. As you know, I climbed to the top of the New York State Pavilion. And while we were in there, it was completely, I mean, it looked just like this.
That's amazing in 3 years. That, I mean, that's
It really is.
apocalyptic.
Yeah, it really is. It looks like someone had said it looks like Logan's Run.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, in a few more years, you'll have to use LiDAR to be able to find it.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
are those ancient ruins in South America now.
Yeah.
Have any of you ever seen I think it's on like the History Channel or one of those, it's like if humans were to disappear and how plants take over buildings.
Yeah.
Really
yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, Randy,
I was there last weekend and that's exactly what it looked like. Very
Yeah.
sad.
they didn't clean it up. Yeah, I think we could say that eventually they will, because they're working on the building. I know it's not going as fast as everyone would like, but they are doing things. I think this is just a matter, they'll get in there and they'll clean all this out.
Mhm.
It is really interesting. I mean, from a you know, like what would happen, like Randy said, what would happen if you would just leave something like that? This would just totally overtake the entire pavilion.
And a lot of that's poison ivy, you said?
Yeah, there's a lot of poison ivy. Well, there's a lot of poison ivy around the perimeter anyway. And I found that out. I found that out firsthand. And where the sky streaks are, there's a lot of poison ivy. So you got to be very, very careful.
Wow.
And that's what they're doing. That's the latest picture of the
Wow.
the work going on at the towers. And
Looks
it's
like
very, very, very sad because somebody actually got up there and there's graffiti now at the top of the towers again. And that's a piece, that's an electrical plate we picked up when we went to the top, and this was laying at the bottom. And this photo we call, hey, passengers of the Sky Streak, you're not going to want to leave without these. Yeah, these are enormous springs. And just think the weight that these springs had to put up with. on the sky streaks themselves. And of course, these are the Moldcast lamps over the years that we found and brought home with us. And that's one of the cobalt, a small cobalt glass, blue glass.
Caroline asks, who's paying for the restoration work? The city of New York came up with money for it a number of years ago, so it's coming out of taxpayer funds.
Yeah. You know, when we were there, you could hear work being done. I mean, I know a lot of people say they don't see anything being done there, but there was a lot of noise when you can hear there was construction crews doing something. This is a huge piece of someplace up on top that fell down. And this is from quite a long time ago. I no longer have this piece. I accidentally left it when we moved. But this is a kind of a big piece from on top. And it's kind of a dangerous thing because this thing hit the bottom, obviously came down. Much like the Moldcast lamps, a lot of them fell from the top. This we took a walk over to the Passerelle, and the Passerelle is one of the main entryways and exitways for the fairgoers. And this was from this photo is from some time ago. I think they repaired it, but pieces of this were falling down. You can see the plywood underneath. And the Time Capsule. Here I am promoting the book on The Daydreamer, which was filmed in between seasons by Rankin Bass. And I'm promoting the book for a good friend of mine. And of course, a visit, as Sandy knows, a visit to the Time Capsule wouldn't be complete without trying to lift the cap. As you know, the World's Fairest tried to lift the cap, and we all ended up in the same hospital ward.
Joey goes counterclockwise.
Yeah, what is that? Tighty, righty, lefty, loosey, or whatever. Yeah.
Righty tighty, lefty loosey.
Yeah.
And what are we pointing at? We're pointing to the area of the drain. Okay, this enormous circle was filled with water, and it was beautiful, beautiful. The bench in back went completely around, and then there was another bench that went behind that. And of course, there were no trees. You could see the Grand Central. And the cap is where the 1939 capsule is. The 1964-65 capsule is really right to the right of that, about a foot or two. And there was a drain, and the drain lies right under one of those slabs, and that's probably where the drain is. Of course, we weren't going to lift it, so. And of course, little Jessica Rose had her first birthday party at the Time Capsule. They didn't allow us to set up on the cap, but right next to it. And everybody came to that, and she remembers it well. And that was the ad. That was the old ad we did. And this is, we put up ads for Jessica's party throughout all the lampposts along the highways and around the park so that our guests would be able to find the site. And this one was still there after
Whoa.
years. My daughter's 25. She's going to be 25 now.
It's still there now? Wow.
Yeah.
Was it paper or did you?
Yeah, interesting, right?
I hope it didn't give really good directions to the party site. Otherwise, you'd have had all kinds of freaks there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody would know. It's just this cute little girl's picture up on the. So I left it there. You know, it'll be there for another 10 years, hopefully.
They do that kind of thing here in Long Beach. They do a lot of filming here, and they'll direct the crews to the filming site, but you know, civilians can't figure out what the signs mean.
Yeah, they usually use some code name for the production. It doesn't say Star Wars, it will say.
Yeah, it'll say like base camp.
Exactly.
Yeah, they have those all over the place up here whenever they're filming. So we took a break, had some more ice cream, and brought our official guide, and we're in another, I think in another 5 minutes, the interior that you see, the base of the Unisphere, would be loaded with kids. They put that barrier around there so that kids don't jump in it. But like about 5 minutes later, there were kids climbing all the way up.
That's a concrete barrier.
No, it's not concrete. It's made of it's like a plastic,
Oh, okay.
like a kind of a plastic barrier. This is the New York City building, and what's interesting, and this is when they were revamping it after its time as the UN headquarters. And what's interesting about this is it says City of New York on the side. Now, this is the entrance that you'd go to if you were walking around the corner to the Grand Central Parkway. And if you see where it says New York, well, there's another shot of it, beautiful shot. Yeah, and that's us in the back of it, exactly where this photo is. We went back there. And if you look closely, you can still see the ghost image of New York. So it's right there above that last column. And there it is. Now this is inside the New York City building space. These, we believe, are pieces that went, spare cement pieces that went up the side of the building. And this is a big mystery, and we're trying to find out what these are. I had put out a notice, if anybody knew the history of the New York City building, were there ever blue Art Deco pieces that were part of the original design? And we don't know. And again, another question to ask people at the museum. But I believe these were, let me go back a little bit. Keep these little pieces in your mind. And let me go back a little bit. We believe that they might have been the pieces that are above the perimeter near the roof, but I'm not sure because those look a little, unless they were separated. But now that I think about it, I do remember blue cobalt pieces that were part of the New York City building before they did the renovation. So again, if anybody knows, if anybody has a picture of the building, maybe in the 1970s, 1980s, we'll see if these pieces belong there. And there's the world famous ice skating rink and the ice skating rink sign, which sadly is gone. And this sign means a lot to me because right below it is a phone booth. And I used to call my wife when I knew I was going to be excavating late. So, but that sign is gone. And here's the other one that Bill posted. This is around the corner from that. And I don't know if that's gone too.
Yeah, I think I took that in the 80s, so it was still there as late as the 1980s.
Yeah. Yeah, great sign to have.
Yeah, you wonder, like that big one that was missing, hopefully that somebody took it inside and, you know, it's
Yeah,
there.
I'm thinking it might be inside. There's a couple of other items from the New York City building that that should have gone inside that I hope they did. Now, this is the fountain right outside. And, you know, it's all capped off. And the last time that this fountain ran was here. And this was in the late 80s, early 90s. And those kids were, they saw that I was taking their picture and I thought they were going to come after me. But yeah, that's the last time the fountain was on, and everything's capped. It's all dry. There are no moving parts. There are no loose parts. And I'm surprised they didn't cap that. They didn't put something over the entire thing, because you can really fall in there. And one of the discoveries we made at the New York City building when they were doing a lot of the excavation is this doorknob. And it's covered over with just iron ore or something. It's just adhered to it. There's another. And I found that on one of our trips for the World's Fairest group. And I think Steve Marcus said there's something on the floor over there you might want to see. And it's sort of like one of those Department of Education doorknobs. And one of the structures they did move into the Queens Museum is this original sign that used to be on the out in the front. And you can see in the back the scale model too. And of course, the helicopter cars, this is the last images of them when we saw them, when they were being thrown out. And we even tried we contacted someone in the Parks Department to see if they would give us one of these, because we thought it would make a great playhouse for my daughter at the time. But until we realized that it would probably have to be airlifted into our garden.
Yeah, they were trying to give them away for a while. Remember, it was in the newsletter that the museum put out. They were basically saying, you know, if you want it, you got about a month to come and get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're huge. They're huge, yeah. And sadly, I never got a piece of them. There were all the spare, the spare chain lying on the ground. Never got any of that. And interesting too, the cement lattice work in the back, which was a big part of the New York City building design, is all gone.
Was that lattice work added for the 64 fair?
I'm not sure.
I believe it was.
They did so many. I believe it's original, but the only way to find out would be to get a shot from the Grand Central side and see. But you might be right. And they did move one of the helicopter cars inside, and I'm not sure if it's still on display.
It wasn't last time I was there. I went looking for it. But
Okay, they probably moved it into storage, or it could be a town hall too. A lot of the town hall sometimes takes a lot of World's Fair items, and they had a big display at town hall, if you remember, called Remembering the Future. The press building. Now, the press building is, I've talked to many people that remember the press building, and it's the World's Fair structure that no one ever visited. Post-fair, I mean. It's the one that I went to the least, thinking it's one of those things where you say, well, this thing's always going to be around. I can go visit it later. And by the time I really wanted to walk up to it and, examine it, and it was gone. They demolished it. And it served as the police precinct for many years. And this was the press building. This is where all the news items came in and out of. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, it looks like a World's Fair pavilion.
I was there one day taking pictures of it, and some of the officers came over very suspicious on why I was so interested in taking pictures of their precinct. And I, mentioned about the World's Fair. Most of them hadn't even been born back then. So
Yeah.
But they were very, very leery of what I was doing with a camera.
Yeah, these days, it's very difficult to take photographs of infrastructure.
Oh yeah, people look at you strange as soon as you start snapping photos.
I've always been fascinated with the approach the New Jersey approach to the George Washington Bridge, because it was used in a lot of 1950s films. But go there and try taking photographs of the bridge, and you're gonna get your camera confiscated, and you'll probably be brought in for questioning. This is the only piece of the press building that I did get. Now, when they were demolishing it, I don't know if you remember, in the back of the press building on the Grand Central, there were these enormous, they were like baffle plates, and there were about 4 of them. And they're put there in case there's an explosion with the electrical substation back there, so that the explosion doesn't, get out of hand. It has something to back up against. When they demolished it all, there were a lot of these insulators lying around, and I took one. So I did manage to get it back to my car. The damn thing is heavy.
How big is it? How big is it? Is that?
Oh, it's pretty big. It's probably maybe, you see those bricks in the back? It's
Yeah.
probably maybe another 2 bricks high.
Okay, so those are like standard size bricks in the back.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's the only piece of the press building. And I always felt bad for the press building, because that's another thing that really they could have just reused for something. And of course, there is freedom of the spirit with our beloved United States Pavilion in the back, because the best haunted house that a kid could have. Explored it 17 times, and just the flutter of a pigeon's wing would send us running out of there. But that is the freedom of the spirit. And there's the site today. And what we usually do when we come to the park, we bring this piece of the United States Pavilion with us, and we reunite it with the site. And that's a piece of this. It's a piece at the bottom of the escalator, which, I tried to get my bike up there. I didn't want to leave my bike. So I tried to take my bike with me all the way up, but it was just too heavy. So I could remember laying my bike right at the base of this thing, walking up to the dark rooms up there. Everything was dark unless there was a big hole in the roof. That's the only place your light would come from. And I remember the smell. So
What did it
anyway,
smell like? What did it smell like?
it smelled like a combination of chemicals and urine.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, you don't want a smell-o-vision card for that. Anyway, but you can see the freedom of the spirit, how different. They painted it all up. It was in really bad shape. It was oxidizing terribly, but they took care of it. And of course, this is the famous picture that I took just by accident. This is a piece of the United States Pavilion poking its head out of the ground, saying hello to the world one last time before it gets buried again forever. And this is when they were doing construction of the Arthur Ashe Stadium. And I couldn't get this piece because it was huge. It looks pretty small here, and I didn't want to hop the fence. So, and of course, this is my darling Diane. And this is what we call the 1939 debris field. And the reason that we call it that is every piece of garbage that Flushing Meadow Park is built on seems to come out of the ground right here. And the soccer teams help us out by eroding the ground further. And we've made a lot of discoveries here. Some of this came out of there. That's a pitcher handle, a teacup, and some sort of iron piece. We got this there too. We don't know what this is.
You know,
Now,
that-
remember, Flushing
just
Meadow,
like- it looks
yeah.
just like outside my front door, the top that goes on the lamp, I have lamps on either side of my front door.
Yeah,
looks
it very
just
well could
exactly
be.
Like the top of the lamp out there.
Yeah, it very well could be. Flushing
Yeah,
Meadow
the two
Park,
holes in it there, Joey. I mean,
What's
that
that?
matches, there's 2 holes on it I'm looking at. It matches exactly my light fixture.
Yeah.
and the 2 bolts that come up. That metal piece goes on top, gets tied down with little wing nuts. So you take those off, take the top off, reach down, change the light bulb, take it out, put it back,
yeah,
goes back on. That's where my top went.
yeah,
Yeah, you should give it to Bill in case he needs another spare.
yeah.
Including the little damn wing nuts.
Well, you know what? I mean, if you use this for your lamp, it would be very historic because this thing is ancient.
It looks just like it. That's crazy.
Did you try rubbing it to see if the genie would come out?
That's what it looks like, yeah. But yeah, so you're able to, in the debris field, you're able just to pull stuff out of the ground. And I went there, when we were there on Sunday, it's not as eroded anymore. There's a lot of grass growing in there, and it's very, very hard now to see things sticking out of the ground. We pulled this out too. This is a hook of some sort. There it is, pretty big.
Joey, do you use a metal detector or just?
No, not, we
That's
just
for
by
free.
sight, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was also pulled out. We don't know what this is. It's some sort of, it has a little bit of features to it. We don't know. It could be anything.
Could be before booth fairs when it was just a landfill.
Well, it could be from the landfill, or it could be just 39 fair debris that was just dumped. And all the methane gas is throwing all this stuff to the top every day. And the ground gets worn down incredibly. And there's our beloved Federal Pavilion in the back. And there is Forms in Transit. That's the way I like to see it, because it looks like a science fiction prop. And this is what it looks like today. That entire base you won't be able to see anymore. It's just covered over. And I remember walking when it was like this, and there was some bushes around it. And there was that huge section, still, it probably fell off, and it was down below the bushes. But, obviously I couldn't walk out of the park holding that thing. But I always liked Forms in Transit, and I'm glad, and I think it was moved, right, Bill?
Yeah, it was moved, and then they put that hedge around it to stop the graffiti. And as you mentioned, one giant section of it fell off, so they symmetrically took the other section off to let it look like what it does today.
Yeah. And that's another picture just by accident. What I'm standing in is this. The original light posts for the Unisphere. As you can see, there's three bases for it. And this is when they were getting rid of, they're renovating the entire area around the Unisphere, and they uncovered these. So my wife said, why don't you just jump in the hole? And so I did. And that's what you're looking at. Okay, this is it. The moment you've been waiting for. Remember what I told you, there was a major discovery we made here. Very little in terms of what we found, but what we found came out of this hole that the Parks Department had dug. There was a major flood here, and this is the hole that all the water was coming out of. So I saw a little, I was looking around, looking to see if there was anything of value in there. And I saw like a lot of newspaper, and it looked like very, very vintage newspaper. But I couldn't really take a lot of it. It was water soaked. So I saw a little piece of paper, and when I picked it up and looked at it, this is what we found. Oops, sorry. Well, that's more stuff that's in the pile. Electrical stuff, wiring. That's what we found.
Whoa,
Wow.
very cool.
So thank you, Parks Department, for digging for us, because the water that was streaming out of there probably brought this to the surface. And like I said, I thought it was going to disintegrate. What I did was I put it in a book we had, tried to dry it off, and I ran over to the Queen's Museum with it to see if I could find Lynn, Sandy, like you had mentioned Lynn. It was Sunday, so nobody was there. And the people that were there probably wouldn't know what it was to begin with. But yeah, so that's our major discovery. And it's very, very small. It's very, I mean, you would miss it if you just walk by. But, you know, World's Fair, you know, fanatics like all of us would probably just zero right in on it.
Yeah, it's amazing to think, I mean, it's made out of paper. It's been sitting in the ground for 60 years.
Exactly,
60
exactly.
years. I mean, it's astonishing that it didn't rot away.
Yeah, well, I think that if we didn't stabilize it, it would have fallen apart. It could have been in an area where the water wasn't flowing. It could have been sandwiched in between stones. We don't know. I tried looking for more, but all I found were newspaper, and the newspapers were pretty, you could see the newspapers were pretty old too, but I couldn't save any of those. It was just a mess. I think a rat ran out of there too. So it was just a complete mess. But it came right out of this hole.
Joey, what did you do once you got it home? How did you just let it dry on its own, or?
Yeah, what I did was I put it in plastic, and I put it in between the pages of a book, and I flattened it out. And I just left it like that, sort of like when you put a rose petal.
Right.
And when I picked it up again, inside the plastic, it was nice and hard. You know, and it was better able to, I was better able to handle it. It just needed to be dried out. And I know there's something I could spray on it too, but I didn't want the chance that I might destroy it further.
Yeah, be very careful with those. Be very careful with those sprays. I've had some experience in that, and they often do more damage.
Yeah. Yeah, but right now it is in one of those little plastic, those little lucite.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there's places that will embed things in lucite for you, and you might think about doing that.
Yeah, so it's well protected right now, but it really shocked us. That's why I said it was a shocking discovery, because I didn't quite get it. I thought it was at first glance, it looks like, okay, maybe it's an old lottery ticket, or it's, you know, something. As soon as I saw Greyhound, I just did a double take, and I just sat looking at it. I didn't know really what to do. So I didn't want to really destroy it.
Did you try to get a refund?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure the Greyhound company would have enjoyed seeing it. So now is the time for some bonus photos. And no, I did not write that on the time capsule. But here are some bonus photos. This one, Bill, this one is for you. We found a Good Humor ice cream truck that this man restored up here. And he puts it on display each weekend. And it's from the place called Blue Arrow Farm. And there it is. You could put your hand in there and take out. Oh, the big thrill of the Good Humor thing was when the Good Humor man let us take out our own ice cream, and we got to put our hands in the freezer.
You're making me feel really guilty, because a number of years ago when we lived on East 53rd Street in Brooklyn, I was out roller skating at sundown, and I was having a great time until I got hit by a good humor truck.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was quite a thing because it threw me a bunch, and I still remember, my parents coming out and the whole neighborhood. They wanted to beat the crap out of the good humor man. It was probably
Yeah.
as much my fault as his. But after that, he never would come down our street again, and all the kids in the neighborhood really hated me because they had to go to East 54th Street to go get an ice cream.
Where,
Bill, were you injured?
What's that?
Were you injured?
It was back in the days when they would make house calls, and the doctor came over, and I had a bunch of bruises and scrapes and stuff like that. The major thing was I remember it broke my glasses, and basically I was okay, no problem at all.
Yeah.
It was the days you didn't sue anybody for anything. It was just one of those things. But the good humor man just never came down our street again.
oh,
I don't blame him. He's probably. The parents were just ready to lynch him at the time. So
oh my God.
yeah.
Yeah, our good humor man, he would give you a free ice cream if it was your birthday. And how many people got to ring the bell? You remember ringing the bell?
No.
I remember that it was also a competitor. Do you remember bungalow bars?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he would come down our street, so at least we had that redemption. But for the people that didn't know that, they were shaped like a little bungalow on the
Yeah,
back.
there was a little bungalow top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bungalow.
Bill, where, East 53rd Street and where?
L&M.
Oh, my goodness. I lived on East 51st Street between O and Fillmore.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's where I grew up.
Real people that don't know it, it's a real grid system in that area. And I was at college one time, so I'm upstate New York, 400 miles away from there. And I was talking about living in Flatbush on 53rd between L and M. And a guy sitting at the next table at the cafeteria turned around and said, "Where did you live?" And I said, 53rd between L and M. He was on 52nd between L and M. And all the houses had a common fence that went the
Yeah.
length of the block. And if you would try to walk over the fence to get from one end, from say Avenue L to Avenue M, and then people would have rose bushes or whatever, and it
Yeah.
turned out he lived 2 houses away from me on the other side of the fence. I mean, if he hadn't heard me talking in the cafeteria, we never would have known it.
Yeah, you kind of cut through people's yards back then.
Oh yeah. And there was one guy that built his garage right up illegally over the retaining wall. So it became a big thing to get up over his garage and back down to the other side before he would come out and scream at you.
And a lot of what we had, we had a back alleyway that you could drive your car. Our backyard we had a yard, and then there was like a community driveway that you can drive your car through. So we had that over on East 51st Street.
A lot of our neighborhoods out here have it, but we didn't have
Yeah.
that where I lived in Brooklyn.
Yeah, so you can get your own ice cream here. It was a big thrill to see this.
Was good humor kind of an East Coast thing?
I'm really not sure.
Because I don't remember it. I was raised, up in the San Francisco area. I don't remember it. We had ice cream trucks, but they were usually just, independent operators.
In LA, we had Good Humor, and they were Good Humor trucks. That's what it said.
Mhm.
The company name. That's what I remember the name in years. And it'd
Well,
come
we
down,
had,
had that door on the back of it, like you said, a little door, and
Yeah. Yeah, and it really was. I mean, he would open that thing, and it must have been really, freezing in there,
Mhm.
because all the frost would come out of there. We had Good Humor. We had, of course, Mr. Softy, which you all know, and we had Freezer Fresh. That was the other competitor, and Bungalow Bar. But we saw Bungalow Bar more on Long Island than we did in the city for some
And
reason.
these trucks did not have refrigerator units. They were full of boxes of dry ice.
Dry ice, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's
I
get,
was living in Philadelphia. We had the Good Humor Man every night.
oh, there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a very rare photo. This is the last building from the 1930s demolished in Manhattan. This is on West 41st Street, I believe, right near the Lincoln Tunnel. And this whole building came down, and, say farewell to the 1930s and 40s, because this is pretty much one of the big last big apartment building factory structures that came down.
When did that come down, Joey?
It came down in, I believe, in the 1990s.
I'll be
And
darned.
if you look at the, you could see it coming down. If you look at the beginning credits to the TV show NYPD Blue, you will see this huge building being demolished, and that's this building. Yeah, talk about it looks like a science fiction film. And we had talked about, Bill had mentioned on previous shows, the Warner Brothers Jungle Habitat, which was up here in West Milford. And it had a good run for a while until the town of West Milford wanted it closed down because of the traffic. And Warner Brothers wasn't making a hell of a lot of money. But we were walking on we did an expedition to the Jungle Habitat site, and we found this phone booth in the middle of the woods. And this is one of the Jungle Habitat phone booths with the Jungle Habitat colors in the middle of the woods. So we thought that was like, what a find. As you can see, it says phone. Somebody tried to graffiti it, but yeah, you're just walking along and you come across this thing. Now, what's interesting is if you look really, really hard, a lot of the animals that were there, some of them were sick and some of them died on site, and their bones are scattered around. So it's not unusual to come across a field with a lot of elephant bones in it.
Gee.
This is from a slide that from Jungle Habitat. And the reason I posted this is the safari style fencing that is still there to this day. And there are my girls posing next to it. And this is the lion enclosure. I think I sent a piece of this to Beth. And this is not our Unisphere. This is from the 1966 film, The Power. Producer George Pal's last film of the 1960s. And it is a replica of the Unisphere outside one of the buildings in the film. And George loved the World's Fair. And if you watch this film, even the seating in the auditorium later on in the movie has World's Fair colors. George was very, very taken with the fair when he visited. So that's the 1966 film, The Power. It stars George Hamilton and Suzanne Plachette. Oh, there's another shot from it. Yeah, it looks like our Unisphere, even up to the base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it called again?
It's called The Power.
I gotta look for it, because I love Suzanne Plachette.
Yeah. Oh, she's very fetching in this film. You'll like her in this film.
Yeah.
We had heard about this big cat sculpture, and we went out to find it, and we found out that it is a float from the 1968 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And it went missing, and someone found it years later. I think in the 70s they found it, and they restored it. And you can go visit it like we did up in Arrow Farm, up in near West Milford, New Jersey. So that's the actual float. They restored it. It was really bad shape. This is a picture of it at the parade, but who knew? And of course, that's my lovely wife, Diane, and I. I hope you will join us on more discovery adventures. There's a lot of legacies in Flushing Meadows that you can still find if you know where to look. And we will bring them to you whenever we can. And I want to thank Bill for letting me do another show. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you. That was fantastic, Joey.
Oh, thank you, Irv. Appreciate it.
You can stop sharing and everybody.
Yeah, let me,
How close do you live to the fair site, Joey?
well, we used to live in College Point in Queens. We lived there for about 7 years. So the fair was like in our backyard. Yeah, and then we moved up here.
Yeah, I was living in
That's
Philadelphia.
why that's why it's very difficult for us to get down to the fairgrounds. And whenever we do, it's like a big treat for us to get down there.
Yeah, I was living in Philadelphia at the time, and we had relatives living in Brooklyn, Wolf Rockaway Boulevard. So we used to get up to the fair site quite often.
Wow, it's amazing, Bill, that you lived on East 53rd Street. Now, what years did you live there, Bill?
When I was born, we lived in Avenue, part of Brooklyn called Ditmas Avenue, D-I-T-M-S. And we moved out to East 53rd Street. It's funny thing is, remember 1482 East 53rd Street, Cloverdale 22058. I think we moved out there when I was about 6 years old. No, maybe about 6 or so. And we stayed there till I was 10.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was. It's the house is still there, of course, and I had to go back and knock on the door and ask if I could see it again. But you know, if somebody knocked on my door here and asked if they could see the house, I'd call the police on them. But my grandparents were in Flatbush. If you know Flatbush at all, one set of them was right near where they call the Junction.
Yeah, oh sure, I know it well.
Yeah, right near Brooklyn College, and then the other ones were over near Marine Park.
Right, know that well too.
Yeah. No, I love, Brooklyn was great, but then we got out to Long Island and that was even better. I mean, we had a much bigger house. We had 5 boys in the family. So for the first time, we each had I shared a room with my brother Jim, but we had, space. It was getting a little crowded on East 53rd Street.
Yeah, it was. We bought the house in 1970. It was a handyman special. They had to really do a lot of work on it, but I grew up downtown Brooklyn, so it was like moving to the country at that time.
Well, the one thing I'd like to go back to the house and ask them, we had forced air heating in the house, which was nice, not having radiators, because the heat was a lot better than the radiators. But there was a big vent in the floor right near the bottom of the stairs, where my brother and I have been playing with our little green army men. And if the little green army men were small enough, they fall through the vent and they get down below, and then the whole house would smell like plastic. So I was just wondering if we went back there today, it would still smell like plastic.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, I remember my parents not happy when we dropped those army men down there.
It's very, very interesting. We know we were when we left that house, we were very friendly with the neighbors that were there, and they were there for some time after we left. And one of the neighbors, their kids bought our house. So it was sort of like kept it in the family, really. And their kids sent to me all sorts of little things that I had put inside the walls when I was a kid. Little coins, army soldiers, and we found so much, and anything they found, they sent to me. And this is stuff from my childhood that I would eat lollipops and I would take the sticks and stick them in between the cracks in the walls, So there was a lot of stuff put away in there that I said, wow, I never thought I'd get to see that again.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to the house because my dad built a new back porch on it. Not really, more back what we call a stoop back there. It wasn't a big could sit at. It was just steps to go out the back door down. And he and his friends worked on it really hard, and they made it nice with the concrete, and they lined it with bricks and everything. And about a week after he finished it, I was out working with my testers, or maybe it was a Gilbert chemistry set on the back patio, and I spilled something and stained the brand new concrete. And that was another thing they were not real happy about. So I'd like to go back and see.
Oh my God!
I could tell Dad, hey Dad, your stairs are finally bleached out. That was a real mess.
Yeah, along those same lines, when I was working with Santa Clara, which is near San Jose, California, the first probably about 8 or 9 years that we lived in our house, we were in the county actually, and the streets were not paved. There were no sidewalks. And they would put sealant on the dirt basically once a year to keep the dust down. So my friend across the street, Tim Smith, and I, we made a time capsule. And I remember we put like some coins in it, but what else? I don't recall. Probably a newspaper article, you know, with a date on it. But when they put the sidewalks in, it's under the sidewalk. I mean, I could almost for sure find it if the sidewalk wasn't there. So,
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
That's great. Talking about Bill with the chemistry set. Every kid had a chemistry set.
Yep.
And I made what I made what I thought was shoe polish so that I can polish my dad's shoes so he wouldn't have to do it. And one day he was getting ready for church. You know, my dad would do himself up. He wore a fedora and everything, dressed up. So I decided that I would shine his shoes for him. But whatever I made started eating away his shoes. So I brushed all this stuff on, and whatever it was really like an acid. And he couldn't use those shoes. And I remember I really got a talking to on that one. But it's, you know, we all love those chemistry sets, you know?
I had one, the Gilbert chemistry set.
Yeah, I remember, you know, you would get a little thing of tannic acid and all this stuff. One of the sets actually came with a little thing of uranium in it. And
Yeah,
yeah, because uranium, the atom's your friend, right? You know.
Yeah.
And now, you know, it's interesting. People go to sell some of this stuff on eBay and that sort of thing, and they get their edge yanked down because some of these things that they sold back then were so dangerous.
yeah.
My college roommate and Richard Herring knows him, Bill Troop. He went down to a place that you could buy sodium, and it came in oil, a thing of oil, not water. And we would go and slice very small pieces of it off and throw it into the canal behind Bill's house. And when the sodium hits the water, it just sputters and goes all over the place. Well, one day, Bill's dad was coming down, and you know, it's like, oh, we don't want him to see it. Just chuck it in the canal.
Oh, no.
Big mistake. But I mean,
Oh,
literally, you
God.
could go to stores back then, you could buy all sorts of stuff that were just
Yeah.
dangerous as hell. And, you know, there was a plastic explosive that you could make that I don't remember what it was. It was basically drying. When you would touch it, it would go bang. And
Silver nitrate, sounds like.
What's that?
Sounds like silver
Yeah.
nitrate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but I remember the high school teacher making it and putting it on things, and we all thought that was really great. And we all went out to the chemistry place and bought a bunch of this stuff, and then you would like coat it on floors and that sort of thing in the school, and kids would walk on the floor and it would go bang and bang, you know.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Just buy all sorts of terrible, terrible stuff.
I mean, do they even sell chemistry sets anymore?
Probably, but I doubt they come with uranium.
Yeah, well, not with uranium. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, they use colored water now.
yeah.
Well, speaking of colored water,
As long as it's,
my version of the shoes thing was, I think it was in the 6th grade, and in art, we were learning how to mix, you know, yellow and green to make, you know, whatever color. So my mother made, at Thanksgiving, she made gravy and it came out pure white. So I know, Mom, I know how to make it look brown. So I got some food color out and put it in the gravy. Of course, we had green gravy that year. My mother was so pissed at me.
Well, I remember my brother Jim and I would have fun with food color, you know, since you mentioned it, and we would do things like my mom would make chocolate chip cookies, and we'd convince her to let us make a batch of them that were like, you know, bright blue or green or stuff. And it was really amazing because we liked it because none of my other brothers would eat it. The cookies just didn't look right, so they wouldn't eat it. Jim and I all knew it tasted exactly the same, but my brothers wouldn't eat a bright green cookie.
That's
Well, now we
funny.
have those, yeah, what do they call them? They're not macaroons, they're some French cookie.
yeah,
The word
They're
looks like
macaroon.
kind of like macaroon, but
it's
pronounced like-
macaron. It's pronounced macaron.
Right, and they're like all kinds of bizarre colors.
Yeah.
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 Well, that's great. Thanks, Joey.
Oh,
Appreciate
you're
it.
welcome, everybody.
Yeah, that was great.
My pleasure.
It is an attempt. I was back there a number of years ago where they were fixing a hole like where you were talking about where the New Jersey Pavilion was.
Yeah.
Actually, it was right where the brass rail was near New Jersey and New York. And I really wanted to go and climb into the hole and start digging around. But I had to meet somebody from the museum, so I was dressed in regular business type clothes. And I figured if I came in covered in mud, that probably would not work out too well.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's amazing to see how that stuff raises itself up there. Oh, Brock, you had your hand up, and see,
Yeah.
and Barry.
Yeah, I did have a question for you and Joey. When the time capsule cover was first completed, was that like a polished granite or something? Or was it just kind of rough like it is now?
It had a shine to it.
Yeah, it had it like, yeah, it did have a shine.
I think.
Yeah,
all-
that's probably was polished.
Yeah, I think all the cleaning that they've done over the years to get the graffiti off has taken the sheen off the polish when they polished it.
Yeah, well, the reason I was asking is because looking at the pictures of it today, even without the graffiti, the one that was more cleaned up, but the aging, you go, okay, it's been how many years since the fair?
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be 5,000 years. Well, will there be anything there? It'll be a pebble on the ground if anybody remembers it.
Well,
Yeah,
right.
no, I mean, I think that whole 5,000 years thing was insane. I mean,
Yeah.
whether humanity exists in 5 years is going to be.
Yeah, I kind of like the 5,000 year thing. I think it keeps in with the futurism that the fair, you know.
It's going to be underwater long before then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh definitely.
No, I'm agreeing with you folks, but I actually have seen a book that was produced on acid-free paper that's spread out in a lot of different libraries that shows where it is,
Oh yeah.
instructions about how to make a metal detector to find it. So they thought through that if we still exist, that there's a way to find it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could buy it's called the Book of Record,
Yeah.
and you can actually buy a copy of it.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
know, the
they
trouble is
sell them.
a lot of libraries got rid of their books of records, so a lot of them got into the correct collector's field. You can buy if you go on Amazon, I think somebody's done a modern reprint of it.
Yeah,
But the trouble is, you know, you have a book that tells you how to do it, but some librarian comes by 40 years later, says, I need the shelf space for the latest, you know, Jacqueline Susan book, you know, out it goes sort of thing. So it, I also, every time I think about the book of record, I think about the time machine with, you know, he goes to the museum and you know, whatever the gal's name, oh, we have all the books, and he opens up the books and they all just turn to powder, right?
yeah, they all turn to powder. That's a great scene. I love that scene.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
great movie.
yeah, that's a
Yes.
great
Tells me
film.
everything about you.
What's that?
And he says, this tells me all I need to know about you people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
Then he
book's
goes
from-
back and they're still at the very end of it. What books did he bring
What
back?
three- yeah.
Yeah, great ending.
yeah.
Barry, you had your hand up?
Oh, sorry. Oh,
Yeah, two comments for Joey. Thanks. It was a great presentation.
Thanks.
But
Darren.
what was the year of the first photograph taken? The one with the fire hydrant and the building behind it? What then compared
Oh,
to the
that
one
was-
that you took?
Yeah, no, that was I think that was 1996. The Aquacade came down in 96.
Okay, so yeah, less than a 20-year difference.
Yeah.
Okay. Secondly, an observation when you found the Greyhound ticket, you know, stating, oh, well, what a great archaeological find after 60 years. The interesting thing will be what kind of archaeological find the site will be 5,000 years from now. You know, when they're digging up the time pavilion, but you know, 5,000 years is a big difference. And, you know, we go searching dinosaurs that are, you know, billions of years old. So it's going to be interesting what people will think in their archaeological dig 5,000 years from now of the World's Fair compared to just only 60 years ago. And that was just an
Yeah.
observation that I thought might be
Yeah,
interesting.
no, that's it. That's very interesting. It's true.
That's very interesting. It's true.
Probably the best place to dig in the future would be landfill sites. That's where all our legacies are going to be preserved.
That's right. And they, I mean, even ancient archaeology, we find out a lot about ancient cultures through their garbage.
That's right. Mhm.
Well, that's assuming we all interpret it correctly. There's a great book out, which I think I've mentioned before. People did a thing where they simulate excavating a 1950s or 60s motel. And they're going through trying to figure out what the paper wrapper means, sanitized for your protection. Where they used to put a
Yeah.
and they were talking about, the magical device for the magic fingers bed. Drop the quarter in and buy. These guys did this whole book, and they misinterpret everything in the motel with great comic validity or whatever. But you wonder today if you see this sort of stuff like the Great Pyramid, and we're all saying this and that. You wonder if the Egyptians are going, God damn, how did they miss what I did right there? What I told them. There's a snack bar.
So
Speaking
Joey,
of
how
time
often
capsules,
do you go back to the fair site and do these walks to look for artifacts?
Oh, this was we hadn't been back in a long time. COVID had taken care of us going down, but we returned. We were there for 2 visits, and we caught up with a lot that's going on there. Very crowded. The park is so crowded now that it's almost hard to park there now.
A lot of sporting events.
A lot of sporting events, a lot of concerts. They're using the park a great deal, which is good, But what happened to the column is just a shame, because I always thought that this thing is going to get damaged, and it did.
Yeah.
So now I think they should really take measures to bring this thing inside. And like Sandy says, I think that I will speak to someone and see if that they can do that.
Yeah, I looked for phone numbers, and boy, they are obtuse about phone numbers there. I got a list of contacts. but
Yeah.
Some seem to be, I can reserve a soccer field. But I don't think that would help.
Yeah, you can reserve it. Yeah. Soccer fields are very popular, more than the legacy of the park, I guess. But
Yeah.
I guess Joey will have to cart it to his house and preserve it in his basement.
Yep.
Oh, in a flash, I would. Or
That's a
definitely.
very valuable historic artifact.
It really is. It's the second oldest artifact in New York City. The first being the Cleopatra's Needle that's in Central Park.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll get to you 1 second, Randy. If people go back through the chat, somebody put in there how to reach the Jordanian embassy in New York. So that might be a way again.
Oh, yeah.
People would
Yeah,
just
that's true. That's very good.
look for it. The more bad publicity the Parks Department can get about that monument, the more they're likely to do something about it. So if you
Yeah.
can find somebody, if you're in New York, stop by, say something. If you're not, write to the New York Times or whatever. But the more we can do to try to get people to look and bring that inside, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe to some people on our show, maybe we can all call.
Yeah,
Make
so saying, go
different
through the
calls.
chat and you can see it. But Randy had his hand up, then Wayne. So Randy?
yeah, we were talking about time capsules. I mean, we know the 39 and 64 fairs had time capsules. I know Expo 70 in Osaka had a time capsule. It was sponsored by Sony, and actually it's since been moved from the Expo site to one of the castles in Osaka. But any other fairs that we know of?
Not. I'm trying to think of other fairs. Didn't they? I think they opened the Osaka one a couple years ago, didn't they?
Yeah, they might have.
Yeah,
sounds familiar.
I think they did, because I think they wanted to go for 50 years. Something realistic. So I think they opened it about 3 years ago. And but I'm trying to think of other ones that I can't think of any others offhand having time capsules. I do know almost every time capsule that you open after about 50 years, everything is turned to mush inside. So hopefully what they did with their special aluminum and glass coating and everything else, or steel, whatever they did the Westinghouse one work. But even if the Westinghouse one, you've seen the sample one, which they bring out to various World's Fairs exhibits. It's got a cutaway in it.
Yeah.
You can see how much everything settled in that in 70 years. So you think again, the weight of stuff going down and down and down over 5,000 years. Stuff at the bottom. Good luck.
Yeah, I want the Beatle record that's in there.
Yeah. Wayne, you had your hand up?
Yeah, it was really interesting to learn that the column that they sent was smaller than originally intended. And it would be interesting to be a fly on the wall back in Jordan and hear the discussion about which one do we not value so much, or this big one is going to cost too much to transport.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it makes it, it's not unlike Robert Moses to want, the biggest one that they had. Maybe they wanted to keep that one. You don't know.
Yeah, but transport
This-
cost is probably a big factor.
Yeah.
This
the
column
transport, yeah.
was part of the Jordan Pavilion, correct?
It stood right across from the Jordan Pavilion. You can see contemporary pictures of the fair, and you've got the pavilion, a little walkway, and it's standing out there. So it's right on the same spot that it was during the fair. It hasn't been moved.
And the other thing I read about it is the top piece of the crown is from a completely different monument. So this thing was kind of made up of different pieces so that they could give Moses kind of the one that he wanted, but he just didn't realize it wasn't the same one he had picked. And as you can see in the Jordan photos, there's a lot of them. So, if you want your own column of Jerash, you can use as many to choose from.
I think,
Yeah, here's how it looked during the day of the fair. It was
Yeah, look at that.
right across it. Then there's a marker that this was put in for the fair.
Yeah,
I've got one more view of it here. This is this was the opening day of the park in 1967 when they brought the park back to the public. So it was in obviously much better shape. But if you again look at that compared to the first one, it's still in the same spot. This picture is in the opposite direction. Actually, no, I'm thinking the Unisphere it's back over this way. But anyway, it was out there, and here's that marker that the other picture is, presenting the details of. So one of many columns in a temple erected by the Romans in 120 AD.
yeah. Yeah, that's still there too. So there's technically another World's Fair legacy is this stone marker.
Yep.
Yeah. Very
Isn't
interesting.
isn't there something that marks where the Vatican Pavilion was?
Yeah, there's a big stone bench there, and basically, it's supposedly where the Pieta was, whether it's exactly on the same spot or not. But that's where it's used for a group that comes in on Sundays and does Catholic services there, and use that as the background. And they're talk about whether or not there's apparitions of the Virgin Mary showing up, stuff like that. But there's a big marker, that monument there.
I've got to dig some slides out. The only time I've been to Flushing Meadow, I didn't go to the fair. We were on the West Coast, but when I first started flying, I had a layover, and I took the train out to Flushing Meadow and took a lot of pictures. And what I do remember was, the Vatican Pavilion marker was pristine. Everything else had graffiti all over it.
The whole park.
I think, well, I'm sure, the people who, celebrate Mass out there are the groups that do that, probably, look after it. Yeah,
it's Flushing. You in the 70s, you didn't stay in Flushing Meadow past like 6, 7 o'clock. You would leave because there weren't many, it wasn't the way it is today, and you could get in trouble there because there were a lot of gangs, and there were a lot of kids just hanging out. And it was a dangerous place back then. There was a lot of drug use, like a lot of parks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I have pictures. I can't find them right off here at the top of my head for the Vatican marker.
Yeah, Jim Brown said that the Pietà was on the other side. So I know Jim had talked about
Right.
that before.
I'll find it probably 5 minutes after we finish the talk. Next,
Bill,
yeah, sorry. Hi,
before-
Tom.
hi, I have my Gilbert chemistry set. I thought I'd show you
Oh.
guys from when I was
Yeah.
a kid.
There it is.
Could you make
Yeah.
yourself some nitric acid?
If you open it up, it still has all the stuff. The calcium chloride, the lid is completely corroded off. I don't know if you can see it. And then I
Yeah.
also just had collected chemicals. So I have some zinc sulfate and some copper sulfate that I acquired and added to my set. But mine doesn't have the uranium.
That's one of the later sets. It has plastic
Mas-
shelves. Mine had
Yeah.
all metal shelves. I had the deluxe set with about 100 bottles of chemicals in it.
Oh,
With
you're
Wow.
kidding.
some
Wow.
Bunsen burners,
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow.
alcohol lamps in it. Yeah, mine was much more elaborate, but it was all metal the inside.
Yeah, mine had two doors that opened up. It opened up like a
Yep.
gate,
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
mine too. Mine
Exactly.
too.
and it had chemicals on both sides.
The little
Right.
glass
Wow.
jars.
Yeah,
I
no
feel
uranium
jealous.
though. I wish mine had the uranium.
Well,
Tom,
one
what
more
year
thing
is
to
that from?
collect.
Do you know?
There's a book here.
Well, I was looking at the clothing on the father and son. It looked
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
very
there's-
60s or 50s. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't
there's
know that. Richard Herring just said that people were able to buy radium before they knew how deadly it was.
Mhm.
Like what, Rich, over the counter?
Yeah, I think you could just buy, so you could coat things like your light switches in your house so they would glow at night. It was
Yeah.
like, a home hack
Yeah.
back then.
And Gilbert also made the erector set.
Oh,
Yeah.
love those.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love
In
that.
the,
Yeah.
in the mid-60s, when I worked at the Science Museum, we had a radioactive sample to demonstrate the Geiger counter, but I had a radium dial watch that was like 100 times stronger than that sample. And,
Yeah, they warn you about, I have a World War II plane. They warn you about a lot of the instruments for the plane back then. They used radium. So at nighttime, they would blow up and that sort of thing. So, today, when you get your instruments redone, they take that off and they put something else on. But, there's a lot of that stuff back then. Nobody the hell knew.
I just read an article that talked about that, and I think it was over the counter. They didn't say you needed a prescription to get it.
Wow.
My guess is, though, it was a short window of time, because it's also here in New Jersey that they discovered that the girls, the young women, like mill women or whatever, that would point their brushes with their teeth,
Yeah. Yeah.
then get with their mouth, would
Radium ladies.
eject it and die from it. So my guess is it didn't last that long. But there was a mania about that, because
Wow.
they thought that radium really was a cure-all for a lot of stuff. And as it turns out, if you ever go to Saratoga and get the water from some of the public wells, it spouts out because of radioactive kind of volcanic action. And it tastes very, very alkaline, but it is slightly radioactive.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
there were
it-
radium baths all on Route 66. There's several buildings that show the signs on it. And they were very popular until they found out it was killing people. But you can still see a lot of buildings. Matter of fact, there's one building I saw that still had the tubs where people would soak in this stuff.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah, not a great thing to do. But yeah, radium water, people would go with just pause.
Wow. Radium water. Huh. I
The
know we have a lot of the fallout shelter signs still up on the old buildings here.
the year on the chemistry set is 1956. See it? There.
Wow.
Wow.
Great.
And I remember doing change the color of your fireplace flames. You know how you could make crystals and then,
Yeah.
I clearly remember doing that one, and my family was very impressed.
Wow. I have a question. Jim Brown?
Is still here?
Jim?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just turning on the mic. Yes?
Oh, hi, Jim. You were saying the PA was on the other side of the,
Right. The site is sort of an oval shaped site.
yeah,
The bench is on the side where you had the entrance. In fact, the bench lines up almost exactly where a pair of the exit doors were. But the piano was down the opposite end. And they
right.
had recently planted a row of trees in a sort of a circle that outlined the perimeter of the foundation of the building. If you spot the middle of that circle of trees and a little bit in from the wall, where the wall was, that's where the piano actually was. I have some drawings for it, but it'd take me some time to get them
Yeah.
up. I'd have to share the screen and all that. But I think,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, the opposite end of that oval site.
And the bench is PostFair, right?
Yes, post-fair.
Okay,
You couldn't have the bench there. Part of the foundation runs
Right.
where the bench is.
no, I mean, it didn't come out of the building at all.
Oh, no, the bench was a marker put there
Okay,
later.
it's just the marker, okay,
Right. Nothing
Thanks,
of
Jim.
the actual building is there except maybe some foundation 3
yeah,
feet down or so.
Yeah.
thanks, Jim, that's great.
Somewhere I know I have pictures that I'll find it, but that's the trouble. You go and you take so many pictures so many times. But
Well, I was gonna say, we know, getting back to the radium issue, that we know now to be a little bit more safe, but in the 1950s, as Bob Marshall knows, radiation was responsible for a lot of things like giant ants.
Oh, yeah.
And, it brought back many prehistoric creatures from their long million-year slumber.
Godzilla. Hey,
There you go.
Wasn't the 50-foot woman exposed to
The
radiation?
50-foot woman, yeah, you had 50-foot women back then.
yeah.
An amazing colossal.
I had a couple
Right.
teachers, I had a
And men.
couple nuns that were teachers that were 50-foot women.
great. Well, thanks everybody for coming today. Next week I will not be here. There's one of my other interests is the Adventures of Superman, the 1950s serial starring the series starring George Reed, and the fellow Jim Nolt has a website on it. And every couple of years he does a gathering of people that were connected to the show, either in it, filming it, whatever. And next Saturday he's having a big event that I host his website for him, so he invited me to be his guest at it. So next Saturday we'll all be, all yelling out in unison, "Faster than a speeding bullet." Randy?
Just real quick, are any of the actors still alive from that show?
Some of the people, like Ruta Lee was in it.
She was. Oh.
Washburn, she played the little gal in the very first episode with the Mallman and that. So there's a few of the bit players. All the main actors are gone. The last one of these I went to, Jack Larson was still with us, and he was there. Jimmy Olsen, and then the fellow that played Perry White, his son came to it. It's the first time that that guy and Jack Larson had seen each other since the series had been done. So it's just a bunch of, just like we have World's Fair geeks, they're Superman geeks, and so I'll be doing that next Saturday. And then I have a couple things. I've been working on more and more films for various fairs and that sort of thing. And so 2 weeks from now, I'll be back. It might be centered on Disneyland, or it might be centered on the 64 fair. I'm just still trying to flip a coin that I have both of them coming up.
Bill, I think Jim Brown has that photo he wanted to show.
Jim, did you have it?
Yes, I do have it. If you still have time in the show for me to add it, or to bring it up and share it, I have it like ready here to show.
There, you're all set, major co-host.
Okay, there it is. Okay, people seeing it?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, you see my cursor, you see where the bench is?
wow, yeah, look at
Blue
that.
line is the outline of the building. Here's the main entrance. And you walked all the way back here to the theater, and it is right here. And you can see
Wow.
a little bit the trees that they planted around it. And the ground is a little bit worn away right in this spot where people were able to locate it. And there's a little patch of dirt there where people stand right in that spot by the theater.
Hmm.
Very interesting.
All right?
Great. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you. Well, thanks a lot, Joey. That was one of
Oh,
the best
and-
presentations.
Yeah.
I've
My
seen.
pleasure, my
Very
pleasure.
enjoyable.
It was
Learned a
good.
lot.
Thanks, Bill, for hosting.
Oh,
it.
thanks.
Oh,
Thanks,
sure, no
Andy.
problem. Oh, and real
Right,
quick,
everybody, I gotta go, but I'll see you soon.
great,
Okay.
Brock, are you going
Okay,
care,
bye,
Jim.
Ben.
Good job.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Okay,
Okay, bye-bye,
Brock, are you
everybody.
going to the next lunch on the 16th?
Yes, I am.
I will see you there. You missed it.
All right.
We gave a little talk about Glenn and our losing him from our Saturday circle.
Yeah.
So, great. Well, we'll see you in 2 weeks, and Brock, we'll see you on the 16th.
Okay.
Hey,
Okay,
thanks, Bill.
bye-bye, Bill. Thank you, Bill.
Bye.
They're all